Welcome to the Tuesday, May 28th meeting of the Board of Selectmen. All the members are present, and we are on to our 7 o'clock appointment. We do have Lynn Jennings, EPA Section Chief, and James DiLorenzo, EPA Project Manager of the Olin Superfund site. We're looking forward to an update, and I know that perhaps my colleagues and myself, the manager, have some questions. Our State Representative Dave Robinson's here, and I really appreciate that, and I just want to give you the opportunity if you want to add. I know you're fighting for this on Beacon Hill in regards to this.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously, it's a long process, and there's a major housing development going on across the border in Woburn called the Ledges Project. And I believe there's 400,000 cubic yards of mountaintop being removed. And so we as a delegation wrote asking to see if there's any consideration that was given to possibly agitating the plume. A lot of material that would have absorbed or diverted the water has now been shifted. Again, there's this massive amount of soil and bedrock before that used to divert it. Is that now impacting the plume, and has there been any consideration of mitigation for this potential new source of water, which might expedite the spread of the plume? I don't believe that this is a hard, impervious surface below that soil. I think Olin has downplayed that. I think it's leaked out far more than they're leading on to. And I'm worried that this construction project, though well-intentioned of affordable housing, not only is disrupting the neighborhoods, but putting people's health here in Wilmington at risk by allowing that plume to spread quicker than our previous analytical models would call for. And there really is something that I'm quite concerned about with. So if there's any sort of commentary or any sort of consideration we can give in the short term to make sure that that's not happening, I think it would provide a lot of comfort to not just myself, but the people that live here too.
The Ledges project, where there's up to a 2,500 pound charge twice a day being detonated on that property. Is that affecting bedrock and widening the fractures in it? And if it's determined that that is somehow exacerbating the plume or allowing it to go through bedrock quicker, are they, as main drilling or the developer, is it possible that they could be added as a PRP in the future?
Yeah, I mean, if they're, if they're blowing rock, depending on how close it is to the site, it's possible they could be affecting, groundwater flow. And yeah, if they change the situation, exacerbate the problem, they could become liable.
Is there some way that you guys can monitor that activity over there to protect Wilmington's interest?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it to my attention. I'll definitely follow up on our end to see where it is in proximity to the Olin site. I don't know how close you have to be to really, but we could certainly ask our hydrogeologist to take a closer look at it.
In the blasting that's taking place, if you find out that it is affecting the area, do you have the authority to stop them from blasting?
I would think we do. How we would go about doing that, I'm not certain. So I really have to kind of look at the hydrogeology, to just figure out if it's going to be an issue. I'm first reaction is it's probably not an issue, but it's worth us looking into. Sometimes it's actually the monitoring data that shows, and you don't just know it immediately. You have to monitor over time. So it might be worth, depending on its proximity, just for us to be aware that we can make sure we've got the appropriate monitoring points in place to evaluate it. But yeah, I mean, if it's exacerbating the problem and we can prove it, with the information we have, I'm sure we could contact them and say, you're incurring possible liability for what you're doing.
Or can that letter be sent anyways, if you have to do testing for the future in order to prove it? Can you send them a letter today to say there's a possibility that this may happen, we're going to be testing that area over the next 6 months, and you may be liable?
It depends how strong the information is. The bedrock is something that hasn't been studied enough at the Olin site, so we don't have our arms around it just yet. And so if we try to go out with a decision that's premature and not supported by any scientific evidence, we won't get very far with that. So if we're going to do something like stop a development, we're going to have the information that supports that type of an action. Not we think it's a problem. We'll probably have to be more definitive than that.